Let me unveil something that we've been working on that will allow you to play dozens of games you've never been able to play before until now. We call them our jumbo letter tiles. They're 3.5 by 3.5 inch wooden tiles that we've laser engraved with letters and point values, and you can use them to host large scale activities that are unique and super visual. In this video, we'll talk about 7 activities that you can organize with these tiles that takes next to no setup, but first, let me show you how you can get your hands on a set of your own. Alongside the launch of our jumbo letter tiles, Actually Fun is also launching our own website. It's got written versions of all of our games that we've showcased here on the channel, as well as handouts for you to print out and reference while you run them with your group. If you navigate at the top to shop, you'll see the jumbo letter tiles there. You'll notice that there's 2 different size options available. The normal set contains 100 tiles and the mega set contains 150 tiles. The advantage of getting a mega set is obviously more tiles, but you also have at least 2 of every letter, which makes a lot of the games run better. I'll also mention if you're not convinced you want to buy a set for your own group, there is a way to DIY one for yourself. Simply cutting out squares of paper and writing the letters and point values on it will allow you to play all of the games that we'll talk about. The downside, of course, is that you probably won't get much use out of them before they get destroyed. But if you only want to try one of these activities, maybe that's the right choice for you. Enough intro, let's hop into the games. Trivia Jack combines quick thinking with quick searching. To play, everyone is going to be on one end of your space with all of the letter tiles face up on the opposite side. Optionally, I would recommend setting up 3 rows of tables. Some set up normally and some set up on their sides. The leader will read out any trivia question that has a one-word answer, such as what geometric shape is often used for stop signs. The team's goal is to rush down to the other side, collect the tiles that they need in order to spell out the answer, octagon, then bring the tiles back to spell out the answer. As soon as the question is read, one person from each team will race down to the letter tiles. If you've chosen to set up tables, the runners will have to duck under the tables that have been set up normally and jump over the tables on their sides. Again, this is optional and just done to add some extra chaos to their journey. Once the player gets to the tiles, their job is to search for any of the letters in the correct answer. They might see a P and ignore it, then an R and ignore that, but finally they see an N, which they need. So they race back and bring it to their team. Once they've come back, the next person is allowed to run down and start looking for another letter that they need. Each person is only allowed to carry 1 tile at a time, and whichever team uses the tiles to spell out the answer and show the leader first is the winner. You can play this as a best of 9, and if you check out the article on our website, you'll find a list of example trivia questions. The next game I got from one of my favorite competitions from the TV show Big Brother, and I've called it Word Lurch. The setup is the same as for Trivia Jack, except this time there's no teams. The goal is to spell out the longest word that you can by collecting tiles 1 at a time. On the count of 3, everyone rushes down and takes whatever tile they think will help them spell a long word. Again, everyone is only allowed to carry 1 tile at a time, but players just go back and forth collecting whatever tiles they want to. Some players opt to go for a specific word, while others just try to collect as many tiles as possible in the hopes that they'll be able to use them in a long word. The tiles run out fast, so you better prioritize the right letters. Once you've spelled out a word that you're happy with, you can sit down next to your tiles to lock in your word. Whoever manages to spell the longest word is the winner, and if there's a tie, whoever locked in first wins. The stressful part about playing this game is that there's a limited number of tiles, so if you commit yourself to spelling a really long word but are missing a letter at the end, you're out of luck. You have to try to find a balance between spelling a word that's long enough while not overcommitting. If you want to play a second round, instead of going for the longest word, try going for the word that has the highest point value as denoted by the tiles. This encourages people to take some risk by using tiles that are worth more but are harder to use. You've probably played some variation of word ladder before, but probably not a version that's this high energy. Give each team the tiles for a 5-letter word and then announce an entirely different 5-letter word. The goal is to turn the word in front of you into the target word by switching out 1 letter at a time while always maintaining a real 5-letter word. For example, say you gave everyone the word think to start with and then told them to get to spare. They might first exchange the I for an A and it makes the word thank, then they replace the T with an S to make the word shank, then the N for an R for shark, then the K for an E for share, and then finally they could replace the H for a P to make spare. Again, each step of the way you're only replacing 1 letter and you always have to maintain a real 5-letter word. You can't take the 5 letters that you have and rearrange them. It is a simple 1-to-1 substitution. Not only do they have to think of a valid word that helps them get closer to their target word, once you realize what letter you want to switch out, you have to run down to the opposite side of your space and find it. This game has a great combination of strategy, physicality, and luck, so it's sure to be a close match. Here's a few good word pairs for you to use, but if it's still too hard for your group, you can choose 4-letter words instead, or you can give them one of the middle words as a hint. For something that's less about being high energy and more about teaching an important lesson, you can try the following activity, which I've named Sesquipedalian, meaning a word that's very long and multisyllabic. Pick any long word that has to do with a lesson that you'd like to teach. For example, say you wanted to teach a lesson about what it means to be in a youth group together. You could pick the word interconnectedness. Collect the letter tiles that you need to spell out your long word and give them to your whole group in no particular order. Pose the following challenge to them. I've just given you 18 letters that can make one single 18-letter word. I want to see if you can unscramble the letters and figure out what the 18-letter word is. This is a challenge that sounds nearly impossible to do, but it's actually much more achievable than you may think. Worst case scenario, you can give them hints about where some of the letters go, but ultimately they should be able to struggle through it themselves. You can use this as a chill segue into a conversation about whatever topic you'd like, and the activity makes it much more likely that your youth will remember. Another activity that has some meaning behind it is Broccoligrams. You could use this either as a name game for your group that's just getting to know each other, or as a means of strengthening existing bonds. Have everyone collect the letter tiles that they need to spell out their own name and select one person to go first. That person will lay their name down on the ground while simultaneously sharing 3 facts about themselves. The next person that goes needs to not only be able to connect their name to the first person's name like in a crossword puzzle, but they also need to connect to one of the interests that that person shared. These connections can be surface level or they can be deep depending on what the group chooses to share. But if you want to connect your name to someone else's name, you need to be able to find a way to also connect to what's important to them. The next person can go and then connect themselves to any of the names that have already been laid down, again finding something that they have in common with whoever they have attached their name to. Once everyone is gone, you'll have this awesome array of connections, and you can talk about how everyone in the group is connected to each other in one way or another. Building bridges between people is the first step of forming relationships, and this game is a great way to get that started. Back to another thinking game. Divide everyone up into 2 teams and flip 3 random letter tiles face up. Your goal is to be the first person to shout out a word that has the 3 letters in it from left to right. For example, if you flipped over an E, S, and T, you could shout out best or yeast or essential. You wouldn't be able to shout out steer because even though that has an E, an S, and a T, it's not in the right order. Whoever yells out a valid word first wins the tiles for their team, and then you can lay out another 3 letters. If everyone agrees that no word can be made, then you just lay another 3 tiles on top of the previous ones, and whoever wins that round gets all 6 tiles. Whichever team has more tiles by the time you've gone through all of the letters is the winner. Alternatively, you could add up all of the tile values, and whichever team has more points is the winner. Also, as a side note, this game is called PDQ, which obviously implies that PDQ is short for something, but I cannot figure out what it is, so if you can think of anything, PLS, let me know. And finally, a game that I came up with all on my own and definitely isn't a copyrighted game that has sold over 10 million units. I call it Giant Pananagrams. Divide into 2 teams and sit on opposite sides of a large space from each other. Give each team 21 letter tiles and sit the rest of the tiles in the middle of your space. Your job is to find ways to make all of your letter tiles connect to each other by spelling words. You can't have any instances of words that don't exist, and all of your tiles have to be connected in one big arrangement. But as soon as either of the teams has worked all of their letters into the grid, they can yell out, steal. The game isn't over, but instead each team needs to send one person to the middle to retrieve a new letter tile that now needs to be worked into your other letters. You don't have to keep the same words as the game goes on, so feel free to demolish something you previously had to make space for a more useful word. Every time either team gets all of their letters incorporated, a new representative runs to the middle to grab another tile, and this keeps going until there is not enough tiles for each team to grab a new one, at which point the final team to complete their board wins. And as a thank you for making it to the end of the video, I will give you one bonus game that I also made up and definitely didn't steal from a game that has sold 150 million copies. I call it Giant Scrapple. In this game, teams take turns creating words that score points based on the tiles that they use, and if you really want to get creative, you can even use double and triple word or letter score tiles. If any of these games look fun to you, your support would mean a ton to us at Actually Fun. We've worked really hard to provide as much value as possible, and there's honestly a ton of other games you can play with these tiles. Again, everything that you need to pick up a set for yourself is available on our website, as well as numerous other valuable resources you can use to elevate your group's experience. Again, thank you so much for watching, and check out the description to find links to everything that we've talked about.